When I first purchased my property, I thought I was finally free from overbearing neighbors and the endless bureaucracy of HOAs. But I quickly realized that peace doesn't come easily when someone like Karen exists. From the moment she learned my land was just outside the HOA's jurisdiction, she began looking for ways to assert control, sending letters, making calls, and even showing up unannounced to inspect my property. I tried to stay cordial at first, thinking perhaps a calm conversation would resolve things, but it only fueled her audacity. She claimed my landscaping violated invisible rules. My driveway was too wide and even tried to dictate where I could place my garden shed, despite having zero authority. The tension escalated when she began involving other HOA members, organizing so-called community meetings to target me, and spreading rumors that I was ignoring HOA laws in ways that could supposedly bring penalties. I knew that letting her intimidate me would only encourage more harassment, so I started documenting every interaction, videos of her trespassing, letters, and official property documents proving that my land was fully private. Around this time, I also realized that my position as an assistant commissioner could be leveraged not for personal revenge, but to ensure the law was on my side and that her attempts to bully me could not go unchecked. I calmly researched every local ordinance, zoning rule, and HOA limitation, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Meanwhile, Karen's attempts became more extreme. She hired contractors to inspect areas of my property, placed temporary signage claiming HOA authority, and even threatened fines for activities that were fully legal and allowed on my land. Friends and neighbors began noticing her behavior, whispering about her obsession. But she remained undeterred, confident she could intimidate anyone who opposed her. I knew the time to act was coming, and I spent weeks preparing my case, both legally and strategically, because I understood that people like Karen only respond to proof and authority. Section 1 ends with the realization that this was not just a property dispute, it was a test of patience, strategy, and knowledge of the law, and I was ready to face it head-on, ensuring that Karen's overreach would finally meet its match. By the time Section 2 begins, the situation had escalated to a full-blown standoff. Karen had started calling the county repeatedly, claiming violations that didn't exist, and even tried to involve local contractors to inspect my property under the guise of safety concerns. I remained calm, knowing that reacting emotionally would only give her more leverage. So I meticulously gathered every piece of evidence I could: photos of her trespassing, copies of all correspondence, notarized property surveys, and records proving that my land was entirely outside HOA control. I also reached out to legal counsel familiar with HOA overreach, preparing for a formal cease and desist order. One morning, Karen arrived with a small crew, insisting she needed to measure my driveway and correct violations. But this time, I was ready. I met her at the gate with my lawyer on speakerphone, reciting the exact ordinances and property rights that rendered her claims invalid. Her confidence wavered when I presented official county maps showing clearly where her authority ended, and the lawyer calmly explained the potential consequences of trespassing and harassment. Karen tried to argue, claiming community interest, but each point she made was quickly countered with documented proof that her actions were unauthorized and illegal. Witnesses from the neighborhood had begun to gather, observing her increasingly desperate attempts to assert control, and I could see the shift in her demeanor from smug authority to flustered panic. Over the next few days, the legal notices were delivered, and the county officially warned her against further interference, citing violations of property law and trespassing statutes. Karen, realizing the law was firmly on my side, began sending frantic emails and letters attempting to negotiate, but my lawyer advised a firm, no-compromise approach. By the end of Section 2, it was clear that Karen's influence had crumbled. Her authority had been challenged with undeniable proof. The county was monitoring her actions, and I had successfully turned the tables, demonstrating that preparation, knowledge, and calm strategy could stop even the most overbearing HOA attempts to intimidate me. The groundwork was laid for the ultimate resolution, and Karen now had no room to maneuver without facing serious consequences. Section 3 begins with the tension reaching its peak as Karen, now desperate, tried one last attempt to assert control over my property. She organized a community inspection, bringing along a few loyal HOA members to my driveway, intending to intimidate me into compliance. I remained calm, standing firm behind the clear boundary markers and my property line, while my lawyer coordinated with the county on speakerphone to monitor the situation. Karen began making wild accusations, claiming I was violating obscure HOA rules, but every claim was immediately countered with documented evidence, official maps, and county ordinances that clearly demonstrated her lack of authority. The neighbors who had previously whispered about her antics now watched openly as she floundered, her confident posture replaced by hesitation and visible frustration. Attempts to pressure me through threats of fines or legal consequences were swiftly nullified by the legal notices already in place, and any attempts to record or photograph my property without permission were firmly challenged under privacy and trespassing laws. Over the course of the afternoon, her small group grew increasingly quiet as they realized that every tactic they had employed was ineffective against someone who had meticulously prepared, knew their rights, and had the law firmly on their side. By the time county representatives arrived to inspect the area, they quickly confirmed that no violations existed on my property, and Karen's previous claims were entirely baseless. The HOA board, which had initially supported her actions, was forced to back down after being presented with the clear evidence and formal legal warnings, leaving Karen isolated and her influence diminished. Section 3 concludes with a sense of vindication and control restored. My property remained untouched, my rights fully protected, and Karen's attempts to bully or manipulate me were decisively defeated. It was a powerful reminder that preparation, calm strategy, and knowledge of the law could overcome even the most aggressive overreach, and that those who underestimate others often pay the highest price when faced with someone ready to defend themselves intelligently and legally. By the end of this section, the stage was set for the final resolution, where Karen would have no choice but to accept her defeat and the consequences of her actions.